Hello and welcome to my channel. Здравствуйте. This is not another Coke milk video. This is me giving my opinion about Stephen Donaldson's Thomas Covenant series of books that I read some of and hated. Oh Lord, where do we begin? Let's begin in about 1984. I was a bit of a tearaway student, not through confidence or arrogance, but nonetheless, there may or may not have been an incident where I may or may not have pulled a knife on a fellow student. He was bullying me, he was being bullied by other people. Nonetheless, I brought one of Dad's many knives to school. I wasn't really going to say work, that's not what we do. We don't bring knives to work. Yeah, it was a hunting knife. I'm not proud of it, but it happened, and as a consequence of that happening, I was moved from a so-called bad class to another class that was considered nerdier. Really, all the story is about the nerdiness is that by comparison to other classes at my school, they were just a bit more bookish. They were willing to read, and I think they liked their teacher, and their teacher liked them. Not that teachers didn't like students in the other classes, and not that students hated the teachers in the other classes, but there was more breakdown. Anyway, a couple of kids in though that new class that I went to in year 9, circa 1985, they were very much into these fascinating books with the dots, the coloured dots. Now, that's, where are we? Right. So that's the first one. That's the second one. That's the third one in the first series. Then, oh, I'm getting lost here. That's the fourth one. As you can see, there's a lot, and believe me, it just keeps on going. And there is one more which I don't have. So there's 10. Back in the day, there was only these 6, and I was quite fascinated by them. They would sit in the library like that, and they'd be like, all these dots. Obviously, I've got a different version, but nonetheless, this is what we're dealing with. But I never read them. I don't even think I even borrowed them out and just... But fast forward to 2022, I decided, you know what, I'm going to read those books. So I found them in a secondhand bookstore in Geelong, on Warrable Street. Damn if I can remember the name of it. My apologies, but I got all 9, not the 10th. And I decided that as a part of Dry July, I would read them. It's a strange thing to do, perhaps for Dry July, but I haven't been drinking since January, so I need to do something. Excuse me while I take a sip of my sugar-free coffee. Oh, that's still hot. Sugar is also a thing that I stopped doing in July, and still am not drinking coffee or tea with sugar. The books. So I was able to read the first one, and I think I started to have bad feelings very early on, but the bad feelings were overshadowed by enthusiasm. But yes, I did have bad feelings very early on. However, I would like to start with some positives with regard to the books and the author. These books were written by the time the author was 30, you don't write this much by the time you're 30 and have it published without having some skill and a substantial amount of willpower. The writing is clearly good enough to get to published level. So not only did the author, Stephen Donaldson, believe in it, but so did a lot of other people. And they also believed that there would be money and prestige to be had. And from what I can tell online, that happened. So there's that. Um, the other thing to say is that um, there are a few characters in the book I did like. The giant foam follower, I got quite emotionally attached to him. Banner, who is a blood guard, and his people, Hurachai, I quite like them. What else did I like? Excuse me, I did make some notes because I might get brain tired. Oh yeah, the poetics. So though it's a novel, it is a fantasy, and it's written in a manner where there is some craft given to what's happening, some thought about what's happening, and some poetic sense of what's happening. Um, and the other thing that I noticed that I haven't noticed in another book, but I had these flashes like cartoon or comic book squares of a scene. He would describe a scene, and in my head, I would picture it as a comic book scene, like a panel or maybe two panels. Now, I don't know whether that's just me or the author, but that happened, and I sometimes quite like that. That's where the positives end. um, the negatives are substantial, in my opinion. Though people believed in publishing these books, I don't know. That's for them. But for me, uh, these books are just so tedious, monotonous, tireless, relentless, from word use, sentences, paragraphs, the story, the plot, the characters. There's so much that is not likable and not friendly. Not friendly. Um, I'm someone that collects dictionaries. I occasionally read those dictionaries. I try and learn a language every so often. I've cracked through French poorly, but I still had a crack. I'm currently going through Russian, again, poorly, but I'm having a crack. You literally have to get out of your chair or go to your Google to translate what should be an English word almost every page, sometimes more. Sometimes those words are not easy to find, um, but you can find them. But it's every page. Um, and they're just unnecessary, flamboyant, wordy words. English has a lot of words, tens of thousands. Most people don't use tens of thousands of words. This author is clearly allowed to. Heck, they could even be part of his vocabulary. But my gut feeling is they're being used deliberately, pretentiously, because it's not just their sort of little shiny bits in a normal hewn page. The whole page is just awkward with just convoluted language. The characters talk in, I call it high Anglican. I've only been to a high Anglican ceremony once, but just picture, um, oh, see, I can't even describe it properly, and that's perhaps befitting of me in encountering these books. But what I'm trying to get at is these words aren't an anomaly. They aren't just, oh, well, it's just one word here or there. You have to look up. That's not such a big a thing to ask. And some people would say, well, you're learning words. I don't want to learn what the word incoherent means. I don't want to see all these IRR words when I can just have the regular word instead of the irregular word. I did that on the fly. I'm pretty proud of that. and that, look, regular versus irregular, they're both abstract words. I just want concrete, simple words that convey the story. You can have the poetry. I don't need these 7 syllable words that have these uh, meanings. They're not even crossword level words or word search words. Point of fact, I mentioned it to a guy at work. He does word puzzles every day. Word puzzles are a language in themselves. You can get dictionaries that are just catering to those particular puzzles because they use arcane words, archaic words, difficult words, rare words. I gave him several examples of words I was encountering in these books. He didn't know what they are at all. Um, and even when we looked them up, he was still puzzled at the use within the context of the sentence that I read out to him. Puzzling. But yeah, so it goes to the next level. Most sentences are comprehensible. There's not an issue with the sentences. You know what's being said, though you do have to do some decipherment. And again, this comes back to I don't think Donaldson is a friendly writer. He's not engaged with you as a reader. He's engaged with what he's writing, and there is a difference. Um, the other thing with the language is there is differences between how characters talk, but in the world that you are mostly in, because there's 2 worlds. There's the world that you and I live in, and then there's this fantasy world that the main character gets thrown into. All the people in that fantasy land, they talk the same, even though they live thousands of kilometers apart, even though they have their own language. There's this common English that they talk, but it's this high Anglican English, very formal, very structured, very. They talk in paragraphs, and not just one. And I mean like this much on a page, and that's just to say hello and introduce themselves, and it just goes on. That like there's no. It goes down, and you turn a page, and then there's another paragraph, and they're all block paragraphs like this. There's no short dialogue, short dialogue. There's almost none of it. That said, you get to about the third or fourth book, and he has um, inter-chapter breaks. You know, those little blank gaps. I don't know what they're officially called. You get some rest, but it takes him 4 books before he gives you a rest. Every chapter is like 20, 25 pages long, which for me is actually about an hour's worth of time. I am a slow reader. When I see a word on a page, my brain pronounces like it. I am talking to you now. I've got a 5-year-old's ability to read, probably. It's very slow. I know most of the big words, but very slow reader. Oops, excuse me. Nearly falling off my chair out here in the garden. So yes, what else is there? So yes, oh, the big one. So these books run to about 500 pages each. There's 10 of them, so that's 5,000 words. At page 90, the main character that you will spend 5,000 pages with rapes a minor. Not just rape, he rapes a person that in our world and in their world is a minor. In the book, she is described as a person that has not had her courting yet, which means she hasn't gone through a ritual in order to participate in adult activities. He rapes her. And then this becomes almost a nothing. It's explained why he did it in the book a little bit, but it takes, I don't think you get anywhere near an apology from the character for a book and 200 pages. It's a massive amount of time. Massive. So that's, and it's used as a major plot device. That is a major plot device. Hi, welcome. This is my character. He is now in this fantasy world. Bam, he's stuck his woohoo in a major plot device. And this is not Me Too revisionism. This is not me looking through the eyes of Me Too to 1970 when these things were thrown together, skillfully thrown together. This is just terrible. Just terrible. You then, but it gets worse. He then, in another book, he comes back to the world because he has ins and outs. That's not a pun, by the way. He comes back into the world many years later by her standards. So she's an older woman, and she's just a pathetic character as a consequence of events, but pathetic in terms of how she's written. Then there's a daughter. Oh yeah, sorry, spoiler alerts. The rape has a daughter that he then falls in love with in an in and out sort of way. Okay, many cultures have this go on. King Tut comes to mind, the 18th dynasty, that they were just family friendly. But the thing is, that's bad, right? That's terrible. But this guy's not even likable. He is whiny. He's bitchy. He's awful. Just not pleasant. And the way that he's kept rolling through this world, the author uses this device of the character thinks he's in a dream for 500 pages. Oh my god. And I think it goes on even more. Like in the book world, those 500 pages are days or I think months. He goes to sleep and wakes up 50 times. I lost count. It's a lot. Oh, I think it's a dream. What? And yet he's still having these moral issues about the rape. It's terrible. I've lost my train of thought because I've got so worked up. I despise these books. I do not admire Stephen Donaldson for what he has done with these books. Beyond the effort of writing, I think there's a fair chunk of formulaic going on. A lot of characters, again, the language, a lot of the characters, though they have unique descriptions, they're kind of cornball and thrown together, a bit lampposty. What is it called? Bechdel? You know, the thing where they're just like chess pieces. Plonk, plonk. I don't like these books at all. I normally review books in terms of reread, recommend, donate. These fall into, there is another category. There was another book that I won't mention where the only saving grace it had was that I read it on the toilet whilst I was taking a shit. It was a terrible, loathsome book, sexist, misogynist. It landed just before Me Too happened. Me Too didn't change the world, obviously, because the world still revolves and there's still a lot of problems. But it's still that book. I think I ripped up and I think I threw it in the bin. I won't do that with these, though I have, by nature of how I read, I've written a lot of notes. Some of them contain swear words, so I wouldn't put them back into the donation pile because they're ruined, and also I don't want people to read them. They're terrible books. I jokingly say I would burn them, but that has a lot of negative historical connotations that I wouldn't want to get into. But jokingly, I would love to fucking burn these books. Excuse my language. They're just awful. Just awful. No disrespect to people that like them. You clearly like them for your reasons. And I've seen the forum. There's a forum. No, a Wikipedia. One of those things. And I read them because I thought, well, something must be different to me. And I read them and I like, these people love these books. Love them. And there's also other YouTube videos where people just, they're smiling. You can see the joy. Great. I hate them. I hate these books. I read four end to end. Um, I got started the fifth, and it's like this is like a Gilbert and Sullivan scene without music. It's just awful and corny. And I reached, but I was trying to persevere. My after about that page 90, from page 90 onwards, I was really just okay. I'm going to finish these because effort, and effort. The swear word. And like I said, there are some things in there that are good. Some of the descriptions are really clever. They go, wow, that's some really good description stuff. And the giant, I love the giant. I cried when he died. Actually, well, not cried, but I was very, very teary, sad when he died twice. See what I mean? But well, I've lost my train of thought again. Lost it. Oh yeah, effort. So the only thing carrying me forward through the second and third and fourth books was I'm going to finish these. This is dry July. You're not having sugar. You're not watching TV. That's right. I also stopped watching TV fully in July. Nah. There was a day a few days ago, just on the day that I decided to stop this nonsense, where when I was reading, I think it was chapter 2 of book 5, I was in my head. I was crying with how frustrated I was, with how much I hated this writing, how far I had to go, and how little I would get out of it by the end. I would literally only get finished books. They didn't beat me. What's that? That's and again, I'm a slow reader. These 4 books have taken me 2 and a bit months. Um, I would have 2 and a bit more months inside this author's shitty books, shitty, terrible books. I don't care if they're like Tolkien. They're not. Um, I found Tolkien hard, but Tolkien feels friendly. Um, and he's not trying to beat you over the head with a word or something nonsense. So yeah, my 20 something minute garden review whilst drinking a sugar-free coffee. By the way, I've also taken up decaf. Um, Not so bad. But yeah, Stephen Donaldson's Thomas Covenant series is is awful, just awful. I would like to thank the people that actually gave me encouragement to stop the nonsense and then validated me stopping the nonsense because that helped. Because I really was going to chew through these and probably end up being a horrible Irvile. I would read a book about Foam Follower. Like if it was just the adventures of Foam Follower, I'd be up for that. Honestly. F you books. Thank you for watching my video. Please hit like and subscribe and throw a comment down bottom if you like or do not like books or Stephen Donaldson. By the way, don't hate on him too much. That man is a black belt in karate. For all the tough words, he will kick your ass, probably, in a polite Bruce Lee way. But he could kick your ass. I'm no black belt, but his books are shit. Bird. Honey eaters. mating season. Baka